Okay, for now, let us talk about the influence of Roman Catholic Church in religion. So we might be wondering why or how Roman Catholic or how religion influenced the life of every prisoners inside the prison. So throughout the long history of corrections, religious person and religious institutions have greatly influenced the treatment of offenders. So why? Why do you think is that prisoners or religious persons and religious institutions have greatly influenced the life of every prisoners or the treatment of offenders? So as we go through this presentation, we will find out how does religion or how does religious persons affect the lives of every prisoners inside the prisons, or how their lives has been changed as they continue their journey inside the prisons. For centuries, churches were among the institutions that provide asylum for those accused criminals. So long before they really don't have the prison institution, just like how prison systems look like. It has a metal cover, or it has a metal door, or a metal room where criminals are placed, but they use churches instead of that kind of institutions. They use churches to as or to provide or as an asylum for the accused criminals, which means that they use churches as their prison systems, wherein religion tries to come over or to influence or to start the influence of to influence the life of our prisoners inside the prison system. So this means that churches have greatly or serves as the rehabilitation centers for those who have offended the law, or for those who are offenders. So churches, instead of real institutions or real criminal institutions, just like prison systems. So the actual establishments of prisons and penitentiaries was a religious idea that allowed the offender to obtain penance for his crimes. So, which means that the establishment or religious really helps the lives of every prisoners, because it serves as their penitentiary homes to obtain penitence from their crimes. So this churches or this institution is very helpful for them to realize or to reminisce what are their lapses, and to make them realize that they shouldn't do what they have done, because churches would make them realize that life that we have God in our lives, and that we just forget that fact. And that's the reason why people tend to commit different crimes, because they forgot that God is with us, and we are tempted to do different kind of things that made us um, a criminal or commit such things. So while being isolated from others, so while they are on the church, or while they are on the prison system um, under the advisory or under the law enforcement officers, or in an institution wherein they are being corrected for what they have done in the community, this will also isolate them from their families and isolate them from the society. So this means that their freedom of enjoying things outside is being removed, and they are being isolated from others, wherein they only enjoy the company of their same or co-criminals or suspects, or so called the pre-detainees, or their um, co-prisoners. So they will only enjoy, they will only talk to them inside the prison system, inside the prison, talk to them, sleep with them, eat with them. So which means that they are away from their family, but of course their families are given the chance to visit them for unlimited hours only. So probably the most significant influence was the establishment of regular chaplaincy, which means that there are chaplains who will visit the prison system in order to educate or um, give awareness to the prisoners, to remind them that life is full of hope even if they are on that institution, they are on that prison, because mostly or most of the time people inside the prison system were fond of or prone to committing suicide because they would think that they doesn't have the hope anymore being released and being with their family. So some of them would tend to commit suicide to simply end their lives because they lose hope already. So those religious chaplains are very helpful so that the prisoners would also given be the chance or would be given the hope to still continue despite of what they have experienced or what they have in the present, which is they are being in prison. So, the correctional chaplains were among the earliest paid non-custodial and were the first to provide education and counseling for inmates. So, we are very thankful for those correctional chaplains who provide um, education to those inmates even if they are not paid. So, they are the non um, earliest paid non-custodial um, who provide education for those inmates. So we should be also thankful for them for providing education for our inmates, even if they are on the prison system, they still have the chance to know God and to reborn or um, rebuild and change themselves while being isolated from other person. This is also to prepare them for their release. Of course, for their release in the coming years, um, if their time has come that their um, their prison years has ended already. So which means that their crime that the crime was not life sentence, so they have the chance to be released. So that would also be helpful and that would also serve as their hope. Currently, many correctional inmates practice their religion on individual basis or within the structure of an organized religion. So most of them practice their religious beliefs personally or based from any organized religious program. So some of them practice religion within themselves, and which is very also helpful. And of course we are glad to know that there are also persons in the prisons who still um, organize religious or connection despite of their situation. And also those individuals also depend on some religious organizations that visit the prisoners to introduce them or in which introduce them in a, a religious system. Religious programs or religious organizations are the commonplace in jails wherein 1 in 3 prisoners or research found out that among the 3 prisoners there is at least one who participate in different religious activities inside the prison or inside the jail or while being incarcerated. So which means that um, prisoners are being visited by different religious organizations as they are incarcerated, and some of them participated in some religious programs and some of them develop religious relationship between themselves. So it has proven by research and um, thought and have proven that this is also being very helpful for those who are those in jail. So these organizations or these idea is very helpful for those inmates. So, prisoners are being visited by different religious chaplains, which are very helpful, and of course, this made them change their lives and their lifestyle, introduce God, and give them hope to still continue. Um, so today I will discuss the reasons for inmates' religious involvement. So why does inmates involve in different religious activities instead of just staying there and participating in different activities aside from religious activities? So it is very difficult to determine why prisoners become involved in religion while being incarcerated, because of course, human as we are, we could also think of it as um, very insulting part as a human and as a believer, because we always think of it as, we have God, but why am I here? So some of them, especially those who are just um, who doesn't really commit the crime, but they are just um, they doesn't given the right justice, or they doesn't have the justice for them. They are just being pinpointed that they are the criminal, but they doesn't commit such thing. So that would be so hard for them to accept the fact that they are being incarcerated without doing such crime. So that would be, people like them, or people who experience the same thing as them, would be very hard to convince that they should participate in some religious activities, because we would think that they will thought of revenge, or some of them will also feel mad or very mad at God because of the thing, or they will blame God for what happened to them. So that would be very personal. This difficulty is caused by the fact that religious belief and practice is very individual matter. So of course we all know that this um, religious thing is a very individual matter, and we cannot force every individuals to participate if they don't want to, because it is a free will of a person to be engaged in such religious activities. So human as we are, we have the choices, and we are always given the choices since we are born, since um, we are born in this society. We are given a lot of choices. So it's up to us if we will participate in different activities around us. So which means that um, participating in these religious activities or religious organizations while being incarcerated is a personal thing, and we cannot um, force them to participate if they don't want to. So it is exacerbated by psychological complexities in of living in prison. So um, as living in prison comes with a lot of matter, a lot of factors that we should also consider, because some of them would really feel so lonely, they would feel so mad, so they will pity themselves, they will lose hope, of course. They will feel forgotten while being in prison, so that would be so hard for them, and that would also be so hard for them to encourage to participate such things. In some cases, inmates are simply practicing their faith by worshiping God or higher powers, so they just do it themselves. They don't need the religious organizations. They don't need to participate, which means that they have to do it on their own alone. They worship God on their own, and they don't participate in some religious activities, which is good also, because they themselves know that there is still God who they can cling to. So inmates either grew up practicing a religion, or it's either to them or to the family they belong even before they are being incarcerated. So they already have a religion, or they already practice such religion depending on what they believe, or join a religion later in life. So some of us, or there's no obviously there's no child who choose to be an atheist, right? But as a person grow older, they will given the chance to choose what religion they will believe, or what faith they would pursue, or what way they will continue. So the development of religious relationship between a person depends on what he or she chooses. So develop interest while being incarcerated. Some of them develop their religious interest while being incarcerated due to some religious organizations that visited them and introduce religion to them. So that would also be very helpful, because some of the inmates are doesn't believe God anymore because of what happened to them. But as how religious activities or religious organizations visited them and introduced them, educated them, they are tend to develop again their religious responsibility or religious relationship as they are in prison or being incarcerated. In some cases, inmates gain direction and meaning for their life from the practice of religion while being in prison. So obviously, as they practice or as they are being educated by some religious activities or by some religious organizations, they will realize things, and they could finally meet or know the meaning of their lives. And lately, they will realize that um, and somehow it will also give them hope as a person, or as a person being incarcerated. So the practice of religion while in prison is also very helpful for them to give them hope, and of course to know that they still have the chance to meet their families and to rejoin the community or the society again. So it is very helpful, or it is very um, necessary for a person or a law enforcer to know the importance of religion in correction, not just basing on the law or in some legal basis, but also they should also consider the importance of biblical or the holy sacraments that one should know as a human. So the reason why, or the main reason why religious, or most of the time detainees or person who are incarcerated are being involved in some religious activities, is that they would feel that God or Yahweh or Allah will provide direction to their life. So they would believe that God will provide the direction of their life and would somehow give them hope as a person, and of course as an individual, to change if they are being released, or being released from their prison and be with their families again, or be given the chance to be another version of themselves, away from crime, temptation, and other bad influences that would make them commit crime. One that is better than their present psychological or physical condition. So they would believe that God would um, give them direction of life, which is different from what they are experiencing while being in prison. So they would believe that God will help them being released in prison, and God would give them the chance to meet their family again and be happy with them again. Religion also provides hope for the inmates, to a hope for them to reform a life of crime, and even feel that being incarcerated is the will of God. So they would feel that um, somehow being incarcerated is a blessing in disguise to change them, or to change their old ways of living. So they would also believe that it is a will of God that they are being incarcerated. So good thing that they turned out to be optimistic of what they had happened to them. And full acceptance of this will is essential to being faithful in one's religious belief. So they should keep the faith burning. So they should also continue to believe that there is still hope along the way, and they will be given the chance to be happy again. Along these lines, some inmates that feel practicing religion gives them the peace of mind. Of course, while being in prison, we all know that human as we are being bombarded by different problems. We are distracted by a lot of emotions, mix of emotions while being in prison. So this religious involvement will give them the peace of mind while being in prison, which means having some levels of personal contentment and having peace of mind that would improve their well-being, especially those serving long sentences. So as the more or the long serving of sentences they are, or the long days they will spend in prison, the more they will engage more in some religious activities, which will give them the peace of mind and personal contentment. So that would be very helpful for those who experience long sentence if they engage in some religious activities, because somehow it will change them as a person. And of course, that would be very helpful for them, because as an individual, we should know the importance, or we should value the the some religious involvement. We should know that religious connection is very helpful for us as humans, because religious involvement is very helpful and somehow very um, good idea for someone who is being imprisoned, regardless of what religion he or she is into, either a Muslim or a Christian, because as long as they know how to value the importance of religious connectivity and their relation to God, that would religion would not matter, because human as they are, they already know, or they it is very important that they value the life with God, because this would make them feel hopeful, and would give them the courage to still continue to live even if they are being incarcerated. So this would give them the level of personal contentment, happiness, and enjoyment, and they would not feel lonely inside the prison, because they have some activities to be engaged in, especially in dealing with religion, because this is very um, so interesting, and would develop their well-being as a person. And of course, this will help them forget their problems and their worries. This will remove all their worries of being um, inside the prison. This will also help them um, grow as a person and help other inmates, especially those who are newcomers, and sooner or later they will become as instruments for some person to be closer to God, and introduce, and they themselves will be the one to introduce God to their co-inmates as well, as um, days go by. If there are a lot, or there are those who are non-believers, or those who lose hope, they will be the bridge to regain those faith again, especially those who feel being forgotten by their family just because of what they have done, or for the crime they have done. They would feel forgotten by their families, by the community. They are being thrown away, and in this case, or in this situation, they would feel hopeless anymore. So this in long involvement in religious activities while being in prison is also helpful. So this will develop social connectivity between inmates, and for those who are newcomers as well. So they would not feel lonely anymore, because um, they will engage in some activities, and might as well they also feel thankful as what I have said earlier, that they would consider being incarcerated as a blessing in disguise, and of course, will of God, that they are being incarcerated because they would believe that it is a will of God, that they are being there for a reason. So because somehow we as a person needs to be awakened of the things that we are blinded of. We forgot that we still have God, and we tend to do the things that would make us happy always, because we always think of a happiness, and we tend to run away from the sadness and sadness, anger, from the negative emotions. We tend to run away from that because we don't want to experience, because we do not want to feel the way how it is being felt, because we hate the way it is being felt. So that's why we tend to find different kinds of things that would make us enjoy or be happy without thinking of its negative effects. So we tend to use a lot of things just to make us happy without thinking that we already violated the law of the government and the law of God, that we should also, and being incarcerated will also awaken us and would also help us in regaining the faith again, and would help us believe that somehow we need a we need to be encouraged to do good things despite of all the difficulties we have experienced in life. So human as we are, we have a lot of challenge. Even if we have a lot of challenges that is being faced in life, that will not matter as long as you know that God is with you, and that you have faith in Him. You believe that all those problems will, you will encounter. You might be encountering those bigger problems, but we should always remember that God's plan are always bigger than ours. So sometimes we tend to forget that, and that's why we tend to always look after our plans without thinking that some of the some of our plans are not good for us, in which God tries to pull us out from that plan, and that He will remind us that His plans are bigger than ours, but we are blinded by different kinds of things, which causes us uh, to be someone who values worldly things instead of considering that God is with us always. So some of the reason why people commit crime is that they forgot that there is somehow good things that would happen behind bad things, or there is always a reason behind bad things, and that it is one of the plans of God that we tend always to forget, which leads us to commit different kinds of doings, and that we know that those doings are not good enough for us humans. That's why some of them are being incarcerated, but good thing the some of the prisoners turned it to be something good, and they turn it to be something that is good for them, and would encourage them and would give them hope. So that would be all for the influence of Roman Catholic Church in in this topic. So let's proceed how Pope, this is somehow connected on how Pope John Paul II introduced this humanity and hope for those individuals who have lose hope in spite of the crisis they have faced. Pope John Paul II gives hope to those individuals and introduce humanity, and of course face different kinds of world issues, and supported the killings. He doesn't he always speak out on the different issues of the world, and he bravely um, forgive those who have sinned. He showed the humanity of God in human form. So he is a good um, Pope John Paul is a good representation of God in a human form, in which he showed that whatever doings we have done, we also have to forgive those who have sinned against us, and we always choose to do good things instead, in spite of all the things we have encountered. So that is how, or that is the reason why Pope John Paul is being called the pro-life pope, because of his um, prophecy or his legacy, and he continued the Evangelium Vitae, which the Roman Catholic Church kept it